Hey guys, today instead of painting a lure, we're going to make a lure. And we're going to show you how I make a Tokyo rig. Now, you might wonder, why do you need a Tokyo rig? Basically, if you're fishing ponds or lakes that have a lot of gunk down in the bottom of them, you throw a plastic worm, let's say on a Texas rig, and the whole thing buries down in the mud and the fish can't find it. The Tokyo rig separates the weights from the hook, so if the weights go down into the mud and the muck, your worm can still stay out. So I have not fished a Tokyo rig before. This will be my first summer doing it, but I thought, hey, let's make a few. Thought I'd show you how I did it. And you know me, I can't ever leave well enough alone. I had to do a little bit of a twist or a variation to it. I'll show you that one too. Stick with me. So what do we need to make a Tokyo rig? First we'll need a hook. This is a worm hook, a 4/0 extra wide gap worm hook. I have a split ring. This is a number 2 split ring. And I have a swivel. And I hate to tell you, I don't know the exact size of the swivel because I just happen to have some on hand and the package is gone. But as you can see, it's not a very big swivel. Now, along with this, you will end up also needing a drop wire. The drop wire is where we put the weights. Now, in a lot of cases, this drop wire is for a hardened wire. Nice, straight piece of hard wire. It doesn't bend or anything. It's very straight, very rigid, very neat looking. I did not have any hard wire, but I happen to have some soft wire. So this is basically galvanized steel wire. This is 20 gauge. Now, as I've tested this with some weights, let me get a bolt weight out here. This is a 1/8 ounce weight, and you have no problem fitting the wire through that. Matter of fact, I've got some 1/16 ounce weights. This wire fits with that, with a little room to spare. So you could probably use a little heavier gauge wire if you felt you needed to do that. But all this is going to do is support the weights, so I'm not too picky about that. Also, it may not be the straightest wire in the world because it's soft, but again, I'm not going to get too concerned about that. What we do need is to take the wire and put a twist on it. So let me show you how I do that. Yeah, I really don't care about the length of the wire for now. We're going to shorten it later. All I want to do, bend it over, hold it over the nail that I have in the vise, get the first twist on it, pull it up the nail a ways so I can get a hold of it with the pliers, give it about 2 or 3 twists, pull it off, and there we go. We'll cut off the bed. Alright, there's the wire we put the twist on. You can see about 2 twists enough. Again, all it has to do is hold the weight. Now we're going to get it down to size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my nippers and get down there as close as I can and cut that off. Now I will squash that down a little bit with a pair of pliers. But I really don't like the idea of that end being out there where it might catch on some of the fishing line. So here's what I've done. In the case of this one that was already finished, I went ahead and took the same stuff I'm using to put on the fishing lures that I paint. And this is the Bob Smith Industry 30-minute slow cure epoxy glue. So seeing as how I already had this on hand, I mixed up just a small amount of glue and I put just a little bit of that on here to cover that up. I hung it up because it's a 30-minute and it ran down a little, but it was easy just to break that off. And now, just in case that small piece like that might have a deal where it would catch something, it's now covered. Alright, step 1 is to take our split ring and a pair of split ring pliers. Need to open that up a little bit. Take our hook and attach our split ring to our hook. Now, here's one thing I do to make this just a little bit easier. I'm going to take this swivel and I'm going to put it on at the same time while I got that open. Now I'm going to go ahead, spin it around, and close it. And now I only had to open it up once for that. Okay, there's our first step. Now I didn't put this on at that time because there's one important thing you have to remember. We're going to put this on the same split ring. But when we put it on, we want to make sure the hook is pointed up. You don't want to have it sitting like this and you put it on, because otherwise when your weight goes down, your hook's going to point down. So I thought it'd be better. Let's put this on first. We have it pointed up. We also want to make sure the wire goes between the swivel and here. So we're going to get a hold of it. This might take me a bit to get it centered up and lined up. I got to find the opening of the split ring too if I can. Look at that, it's right there. Once in a while you got to get a little lucky, right? I kind of put my finger against that split ring. It holds it in place. And we'll just keep spinning the split ring around until we have it in. And there we go. There you have a Tokyo rig. Now, for the weights, I'm using just slip sinkers here. These were 1/8 ounce. I have 1/8 ounce, 1/16 ounce, and 1/4 ounce. And the reason I'm doing it that way is, let's say in this case I want a 1/4 ounce weight. I'm going to use two 1/8 ounce weights. And I'm going to take the first one and I'm going to slip it up, pointy side up. And the next one I'm going to put on pointy side down. Well, if I get it on there, I will. Now the two weights together will sit like this. Once the weights are on, excuse me there, all I need to do is take my needle nose and we'll just bend it over and close that up so it doesn't catch any vegetation. And there we have it. Our weight is on. Get everything turned around here and set up. There is a completed Tokyo rig with two 1/8 ounce weights. Now, as I said, I have a variation to this. So now let's look at the variation. I'm going to show you something that I came up with. Alright, now we're going to try a little variation here. There's your standard Tokyo rig. We've used the worm hook. What I have here is another 4/0 extra wide gap. It's got the keeper on the front to make them weedless, where you can do the same thing here, but this is the type with the keeper. Now here's where we have to have a bit of a problem. If you look at this hook, here's your worm hook. This is what I call a horizontal eye on the hook. But when I take this hook, this has a vertical. It doesn't run sideways, it runs up and down. So that, if we came back and put in an O-ring, split ring, excuse me, and came back with this, it's not going to lay right because of the eye set. So what we're going to do is forget the swivel, and instead we're going to put on two split rings. Now, this gets a little tougher to do, so you may not see me do this all the way through. We may break the camera and come back and go again. It's a little tougher. There's not a lot of room there to get that split ring in, and then putting one split ring on another split ring isn't the easiest job in the world either. So we may end up splitting off the video here. We'll have to do a little editing here. We'll see. At least everyone I've done so far has been a pain in the neck. That, and I don't see that well either. Alright, now here's the real important part of this. We need to make sure the keeper is pointed towards the hook and the split ring goes on this side. So that's important. So let me work on that and then I'll show you what we got. Alright, A little bit of cussing you guys didn't want to hear. So there's a split ring. As you can see, I've kept this facing here. But notice, this is why you need this totally different. Notice how here the split ring is laying flat because of that eye set. But because this one's different, my split ring is standing up. That's why it's messed up, and that's why we're going to need a second split ring. So now I will put this split ring on this split ring. And you won't want to hear that one either. Alright, there we are. Got my hook, got my keeper. I have a split ring here and a split ring here. It's the second split ring is where we're now going to want to put our wire. So let's pick her up again. We'll get our second split ring. Look for the single spot. Got that. If you'll notice, I always put my finger up against the split ring. That holds it in place, for me anyway, to make it a little simpler to put the wire or put the hook on. Alright, there we have them. Here's the standard Tokyo rig. You tie into the swivel. With this rig, you tie into the second split ring. That's very important. You tie onto the second split ring. I guess if you wanted, you could still probably take and put a swivel onto that split ring also, but I don't see how it's really necessary. As long as you tie into it, you should be fine there, and you wouldn't have to go through the extra work of putting that on. But you could. If you felt like you wanted to do that so you're sure you tied on the right place, you could do it. Now, like I said, I have not seen this version on the internet. When I looked up Tokyo rigs and various things about that, I never saw anybody doing anything like that. So if anybody's seen something like this, let me know. I wouldn't mind looking at it. Otherwise, for now, I think I invented it. So I'm going to take credit, right? Well, there you have it. The Tokyo rig and the Outdoors with Don and Bob's version. That is, unless somebody contacts me and said, I came up with that idea before you did, and then we'll give him the credit. Hey, next week, back to painting. Thanks for sticking with me. Subscribe to the channel if you would. Hope to see you again real soon.